Welcome back. Today I'll be going over chapter 2, part 2 of Lisa Marie Presley's book, From Here to the Great Unknown. If you missed chapter 1, just go back to my channel. It's under the playlist. Lisa says Elvis's viewing was scheduled to be a public event. She says when Elvis's body was brought back home, he was set up in the living room, and she was so happy because he was back at home. She says she felt, quote, lucky. During the public viewing, she sat on the steps with some of her friends upstairs, and they watched the fans go through the line. She said some people fainted and some were screaming and crying. She sat there for hours and watched the fans come through. She said it looked like the whole country was at the public viewing. Lisa says that she was so busy observing other people's grief that she didn't actually grieve herself. She says watching other people grieve her father made her not want to grieve in public. She just couldn't. She said she would go into her room where nobody could see her and then grieve, or she'd grieve at night before she went to sleep. She tried to distract herself from the grief for a little while. It would work, but then she would think about it and she would lose it. She said, quote, I didn't know what to do with my grief. Lisa said she would stay next to her dad's casket just to be with him. She would touch his face and hold his hand and talk to him. She asked him, why is this happening? Why are you doing this? Lisa knew soon that her dad's casket was going to be taken away, so she wanted to spend as much time with him as possible. She doesn't remember much after that. Lisa says the grief still hits her on and off as an adult. There have been nights where she would just get drunk and listen to Elvis's music and sit and cry. As far as her family or people in Memphis, Lisa says after Elvis passed away, she kept in touch with a few people outside of Vernon and Dodger. She stayed in touch with Patsy and a couple of people from the entourage like Jerry Schilling. Priscilla stayed in Memphis to finalize everything. In October of that year, Elvis's casket was moved from Forest Hill Cemetery to Graceland. Lisa says that was her first time that she really felt the loss in her life. Yes, from her dad passing, but also that she was now stuck with this, quote, this woman, meaning Priscilla. Lisa said Priscilla tried to keep her busy. Priscilla and Lisa went to Europe along with Priscilla's sister, Michelle. Lisa says they went to Buckingham Palace, but she didn't understand what was going on because they just stood outside the palace. Lisa said she was annoyed and thought, what are we doing out here? Why aren't we going in? Why are we standing out here trying to get in when people can just come into Graceland? When they were in France, she told Priscilla that she was Marie Antoinette reincarnated and that she wanted to go to Versailles. So Priscilla took her there, and Lisa was walking around and saying things like, yeah, I recognize this, I recognize that. In Priscilla's book, Softly as I Leave You, she does mention this briefly. Priscilla says she and Lisa were at a Marie Antoinette exhibit, and Lisa nonchalantly said to her, that's who I was in my past lifetime. And Priscilla asked Lisa what she meant, and Lisa told her, that's her, Marie Antoinette. I was her in my past life. And Priscilla said she was perplexed because Lisa had no idea who Marie Antoinette was prior to that. And Priscilla called it strange. Anyway, Lisa says before Europe, though, Priscilla sent her off to a 6-week-long camp at Rancho Oso. Lisa said that at the camp, she found a horse that she absolutely loved, and she rode a lot. And she says that she found riding healing. She would do things like swimming and get distracted for a minute, but then realize, oh my God, my dad died. One day she was lying in the sun, and one of her dad's songs came on the radio, and she says she just lay there and cried for an hour. Lisa says most of the kids didn't know who she was, and she didn't tell them who she was. But then some of the kids started saying that they had been to Elvis Presley's funeral in Memphis, and that they had seen his dead body. At that point, she had to tell them, no, you weren't there. I was there. I'm his daughter. Lisa says after summer camp, her mom wanted her in a good school, so she was enrolled in a fancy one in Los Angeles. She said everyone there had a famous parent, but she wasn't really into that scene. She says Priscilla got a French boyfriend and became obsessed with all things French, so she enrolled Lisa in a French school, and Lisa had to take French lessons. Now, Lisa doesn't actually mention the boyfriend's name in this book, but in Priscilla's new book, She talks about dating a French Moroccan hairdresser, Ellie Ezerzer. So I can only imagine that this is the same person, the same boyfriend. Lisa says that she wanted her, quote, other life back. All she wanted to do was to go back to Memphis, and her mom knew this. Priscilla would threaten Lisa's trips to Memphis if she didn't do certain things. So Lisa did everything her mom wanted her to do because she wanted to go back to Memphis. She even kept her watch on Memphis time. Lisa says every Christmas, though, she was able to go to Memphis. She'd go for Easter and also during the summer. Lisa would stay with her cousin Patsy, who she calls a mother figure. She'd hang out with the family, and Lisa says it meant a lot to her to be part of the family. Lisa says in Memphis, every Sunday was cleaning day. They'd watch movies and eat biscuits and gravy and biscuits and sausage and drink a lot of Pepsi. When Aunt Delta was alive, Lisa could go to Graceland for the night and sleep there. She would sleep in the bedroom that was next to the kitchen because she wasn't allowed to go up to her own bedroom. She says the second floor of Graceland was locked and she had permission to go up there, but she couldn't stay up there. She doesn't know why. There was a lot of talk of what to do with the upstairs to help keep it preserved. And to Vernon and Priscilla, that meant Lisa was no longer allowed back into her bedroom. Vernon passed away in 1979, and then in 1980, Dodger passed away. Lisa says she remembers a car pulling up to the school for both deaths, and eventually the car became a symbol for funeral announcements. Lisa says she really had no connection to her grandfather. She says she remembers her and her friend messing with Vernon's face while he was in the casket when they were alone with him. She says, quote, that's not something I want to say lightly because I know it's truly horrific. Lisa says she had just gone through so much trauma at that point and that she was becoming numb to everything. She said Memphis was just the place where she would go to for funerals. She says everyone was expecting her to be upset, but nothing was fazing her anymore. Now Riley talks. Riley says sometimes she would walk into Lisa Marie's bedroom and find her drunk and sitting on the floor listening to her dad's music. Riley says Lisa never listened to Elvis's music sober and she didn't talk about it with anyone. I get a little confused here because Riley just said Lisa didn't listen to Elvis's music sober, but then she goes on to say in the next paragraph how she remembers the first time Lisa had intentionally put Elvis's music on in the car. Riley says she and Lisa and the twins who were really little at that time, were driving somewhere and Lisa had turned the Sirius radio station to the Elvis station. Lisa told the twins, "This is your grandfather." Riley said she was 22 at the time. So maybe before this incident, this Sirius radio incident, maybe that's what she means, like Lisa didn't listen to Elvis's music sober before this car situation. Anyway, Riley says she thinks that Lisa never truly processed the loss and her mom hadn't started using the term trauma until as late as 2021. Riley remembers that she knew that Lisa was heartbroken her entire life. And when Riley was little, Riley felt a little angry at Elvis for, quote, leaving my mother and for causing all this pain. Now Lisa Marie's talking. Lisa says Vernon knew that she had this crush on Rory. And after Vernon passed away, Lisa found out that the Millers were going to be moving to Colorado. Lisa had arranged to spend the whole day with Rory before they left. Patsy knew of these plans, but at the last minute, she got a phone call. She was told Priscilla wanted Lisa to fly back home to Los Angeles that day. Patsy had told Priscilla about Lisa's plans with Rory for the day, and Priscilla did not want it to happen. Lisa says she was devastated and that this is the first time that she remembers having actual, quote, real specific hatred toward my mother. Lisa said she saw Rory years later when she was on tour, and she had dinner with him and his wife, Patsy. Rory told her, quote, your father pulled me aside and told me you better not do anything or I'll effing kill you. Lisa says Elvis hardly ever dropped the F-bomb, so he made a very clear message to Rory. Rory promised Elvis that he wouldn't do anything with Lisa and that he would never tell Lisa about their conversation. Rory says, quote, but I think I can probably say it safely now. Lisa says Priscilla did send her away a lot, but Priscilla was really good at birthdays. One year, her mom arranged it to where Lisa saw the band Queen at the Forum. She had heard that Freddie Mercury was a big fan of Elvis Presley, so she took one of her dad's scarves with her to the concert. After the show, she went backstage and met Freddie, and she said he was very sweet and very humble and was very touched by the gift. When she was 10 years old, her mom met John Travolta and arranged for him to meet Lisa for her birthday. He was really popular with the show Welcome Back, Kotter. Lisa says that John talked to Priscilla about Scientology and she ended up joining shortly after. Then Priscilla described Scientology to Lisa, saying that it could help Lisa become really powerful. And Lisa thought, okay, that's cool. I want to do that. So then she joined too. In Priscilla's new book, there's a section where she talks about enrolling Lisa Marie in a Scientology sponsored school called Apple School. And Priscilla says that she did that so Lisa would be in a healthier environment. That's why Lisa was at the school. So now here in Lisa's book, this is when she talks about her mom and Scientology. Lisa says, quote, "My mom would drop me off after school at their building in Hollywood. I felt like she was dumping me there so they could handle me, and she didn't have to." Lisa says Scientology actually helped, though. She says she took to it quickly, and it was a place where she could go and talk about what happened in her life and where she could be introspective. She says through Scientology, she got the idea that we were more than just a body and brains and emotions, that we were spirits. She said that Scientology didn't feel like an organized religion. It attracted, quote, cool, unusual, artistic people, and she called them her tribe. Lisa says the French school that her mom enrolled her in, one of her classmates was Vidal Sassoon's daughter, Katya. Lisa says that she was obsessed with Katya because her mom bought her everything, and she always had the newest stuff. Lisa remembers that she wanted to spend the night at Katya's house because they had an elevator in the house. But Priscilla said no because she thought Katya was spoiled and she didn't want Lisa surrounding herself with people like that. Lisa says eventually Priscilla would become friends with Katya's parents. Katya, unfortunately, died of a drug overdose when she was 33. Lisa says, quote, "I can see that my mom had been strong in a good way. More than anything, she was worried about me being spoiled." Lisa says she doesn't think that she was deliberately spoiled, but that she could be absent-minded about things. She says she knows her dad spoiled her, but her mom was the exact opposite. Lisa says she never considered Priscilla a friend and someone that she could talk to. She says she felt more like Priscilla's trophy and that Priscilla should have gotten a different daughter. Lisa says to Priscilla, it was all about how things looked more than it was about feelings. And she said her mom would never lose control or allow herself to lose control. She said Priscilla was often gone traveling on, quote, some island eating something she caught out of the ocean, or she was off in some other foreign land, or she was on another adventure with another man. Lisa says Priscilla's absence resulted in having and hiring more nannies than chefs for Lisa. Lisa became close with a lot of these people. She said she felt safest, though, with her Aunt Michelle and Michelle's husband, Gary, who lived with them. She says that Michelle and Gary were the only two people that she could really talk to. Lisa says when Priscilla was away, she was allowed to have a friend over, but it wasn't easy making friends. She thinks that maybe other people thought she was a spoiled brat, but really she was just terrified. She was in a fancy school with kids who spoke French and who traveled, and she just wasn't into any of that. She said she was terribly insecure and scared, and says that she was falling behind in every subject. She'd just go home and lock herself in her room and listen to her records. Lisa says after Elvis passed away, twice a year she would have these hyper-realistic dreams about him. They were so real that she would actually wake up and cry, and she would try and fall back asleep so that she could be with Elvis again. She says she doesn't really consider these dreams. She believes that they were what she calls visitations. She says she believes that loved ones from our past can visit us, and Elvis would do that regularly in her dreams. Lisa says she and Elvis would be sitting in the room. She's in her hamburger bed, and he's sitting in his chair. They are very close, and they're talking, and then suddenly she gets panicked, and she says, quote, "Wait, you have to stop this, Daddy. You have to wait. You're going to OD. You're going to have a heart attack, Daddy. You're going to die. It's going to happen." And Elvis looks at her very calmly and smiles and says, "Darling, it's already happened." And then she'd wake up. Lisa says she stopped having these dreams in 1992 after her son Benjamin was born. That's it for chapter 2. Stay tuned for chapter 3. This is a chapter where Lisa discusses her experiences with Michael Edwards and how her mom, Priscilla, helped get revenge on someone who betrayed Lisa. I'll see you then.